So where is the true location of the temple? Well, you can see where we are. We're here at the Western Wall. And if we believe the words of Mark 13, one of the disciples asked the Lord, said, Lord, consider the great stones and the buildings of the temple. And he said, verily I say unto you, not one stone will be left upon another. So we believe his words. How is it that we can believe that these are the stones of the temple? We're going to go through, we're going to show you underneath the Western Wall. We're going to take tours under the Western Wall. This portion of the Western Wall is a small portion that's above ground. It goes below ground and it goes very far to the north. So in this, we're going to show you where the true location is. It's right here in yellow. And we're going to show you the map and everything in Qumran that shows us the precise location. That's what you just saw in yellow. Also, we're going to prove to you that this is Fort Antonia, the 10th Legion. We're going to show you all the information that's running along the entire Western Wall that gives us the information and evidence of the 10th Roman Legion. So let's get right into it and go into the tours. Before we begin our tour, guys, this is the Western Wall that's above ground. Just to give you a vantage point, we're going to go in here and then underground, mail layers underground in our tour. So this is only a small portion of the Western Wall that's above ground that we have here. But we're going to go underground and check it out. Okay, we're running along the Western Wall. We have Herodian stones. And they're moving, there's a couple centimeters, and they're recessed. And we're now presently under the Muslim quarter above us. Another huge Herodian stone we can see here, and it's really hard to get in video the scope of the enormous size of these particular stones. We know that the first one is 40 feet, and then this one we would have to measure. It's almost the same size. Again, this is just the enormous water supply for Fortress Antonia. Remember, a legion has 6,000 troops, not including support personnel. So that's why this is an enormous cistern. And let's keep in mind that as large as this is, as large a cistern, largest source of water, this is probably about 2/3 of it. The additional 1/3 is beyond that wall there. Here we have actual waters and an active cistern. You're now at the Struthian pool. This is underground, below the ground. We're in close proximity over here. Beyond this wall is another pool. This whole pool continues beyond the wall, and after that we have the Western Wall, the foundation, the bottom of the Western Wall. This is an enormous aqueduct system here, underground. There's an aqueduct coming this way, and this whole area has other huge, enormous aqueducts and water feeding into it. The size of this whole room is probably about 2/3 of what is on the other side. We also had the other side, we did the Western Wall, and that's Jewish. This is a church, runs this, and they put up a wall to separate. But this is a lot of water for Fort Antonio. Now, what's interesting is they say Fort Antonio here is just a little fort, but we believe that water sources like this is what was for the whole Fort Antonio, what is presently called the Temple Mount. So we're going to go through more of this and look at these water systems here. Here we have a stone, and we can see this is part of the cardo that we have underground. And in this cardo we have what's called games. I'm going to show you more of a detail to this, but what you can see here, games into the pavement to remind us of Christ's suffering. So these are games that they played. And from what I understand, there is the Roman legion etched into the description here. I do have another photograph on another place where they show the various symbols and emblems of the 10th Legion. Here's a description of the games that we saw. This was what we saw on the pavement stone. The large circle represents a crown. We have a scorpion, symbol of the Roman legion. So when we saw that symbol here, scorpion, is of the Roman legion, so that's why we know that this part of the western wall where we are is the Roman legion. King in Greek, okay? King in Greek. So these are all part of the game. Double square represents the dice, and the soldiers would throw markers onto this square. So this is the type of thing when they cast lots for Yeshua, they would play these various games. But here in the northern portion of the Fortress Antonia, we do have a symbol of a scorpion, which is the Roman legion. And there are various symbols throughout the western wall, which we'll continue to show you. And as we look at the pavement stone, this is the symbol of the scorpion and the 10th Roman legion. Okay guys, we're here at a old wall, and you'll see in the tour guide's description that we have a clear description of the 10th Roman legion, pottery and things discovered with stairs leading down. Now this is a raw excavation, it's pretty new, so we have stairs leading down, and this is a little bit of the view after the tour guide is left, but he's clearly describing the 10th Roman legion here and an old door with stairs leading. Okay, so now let's listen to his description of what we're looking at.
Beginning of the street, but it's blocked by this wall. So, what came first, the street or the wall? Right. Okay. So they usually say if something's built on top of something else, it has to be from a later period. Most times. So, they found other interesting artifacts here, like clay ovens with the symbol of the 10th Roman Legion. 10th Roman Legion is credited with destroying the temple. That's Titus's legion, you know, the Arch of Titus in Rome, when they took all the temple implements and did the drawings and put it on the arch there. Okay, so this may be a wall from a fortress from the 10th Roman Legion. Take a look at the windows. Two different windows. So one assumption is everything around us is not here during this time. Basically, where my colleague is above us doing the journey to Jerusalem, there's nothing up there. So over time, the city is going to be rising. And one of the reasons for that is because we're standing in this valley. Basically, where we are now, we're between the Temple Mount, which again, the assumption is the street leads right to the gate that's the closest to the temple, and people walked on the street, walked down these stairs 2,000 years ago. And on the other side, we have like the Jewish quarter to my left, the Christian quarter to my right. Above us is the Muslim quarter. So when people were here, when the street was here, and then when this wall was built, the sky. Take a look at the windows. Why would someone want to design windows like that? What's so special about the window?
Defense. Defense.
Okay, defense. Why?
You can't
You have a street. You have people coming through. The carto's not there yet exactly when this wall is built, but it's going to be. So, you have a lot of dust. So make it narrow so you don't get the dust inside your fortress. And make it wide on the outside to bring in as much available light as you can. So that's what they say. It's a very unusual design. There are not too many standing fortresses from like the year 80, 90, 100.
Here at Jaffa Gate, we have an example of the kind of slots that are in the wall. If we take a look back here, here at the main Jaffa Gate, over here, what's called the Tower of David, and we can see these slots. Let's point out these slots here. See all these slots? These are basically slots in the wall that we saw in the western wall that were for, of course, defense, right? And if we come inside, this is what it looks inside the wall. Okay, you can see the, kind of alcove, and then going out, we have the slots, and we saw these in the western wall, of course, which is quite interesting. But that's why we consider it to be, why do we have slots for military, like we can see all along these walls? Why do we have this in the western wall? See all those? Those are all in the temple, right? Well, it's because it's a fortress. Okay, here we have again a clear Roman legion, which is being described here. And these are the originals. Okay, in the plaque, the 10th Roman Legion. Okay, Jewish war against Rome 7 CE. Okay, aside from their military role, the legion's soldiers were also engaged in various public works. 10th Legion operated workshops for the production of clay bricks, roof tiles, on which were insignias. A gallery, a boar, appear together with the initials LXF for Legio X, okay, the 10th Roman Legion. And this we find in the Davidson Center. So where we are is we're just in this area here. All right, here we have the remnants of an old Roman bath in this room that's being described. I'll give you a little bit of our tour guide's description of this, but again, we have more Roman things right outside what we believe to be the Fort Antonio. More and more evidence of this. Of course, most of the stonework here is fairly new, but what he says is it's very similar to Masada.
System. They use furnaces. They bring steam under the floor, like a heated floor. Masada, same idea. So it comes way into the Middle Ages here, and these were in use until, well, there's one that they're renovating right now. So one was, I think, this one was in use till like the 1960s, and the other one they're renovating. Okay, so before everyone's looking around and wondering what this is, we'll take a look at this. Western Wall. What is this piece doing here, and where are we exactly? We are here. Has anybody, well, there's a women's gallery. This is both for men. There's a women's gallery up above. You have permission to come inside. Yesterday, there were about 1,000 women there in a 4-hour period. What happened? No bar mitzvahs at the hotel. It was just wet. So next week, it turned out to be, it took 6 months longer to excavate this, and nobody could say anything. It was a very unique find, not just in the city, but in the world. So what is it? Any ideas? Okay. An aqueduct, because of the drainage channel, right? The drainage channel is part of a whole drainage system to drain water away from the western wall. We know it's here. You can walk in it, up from the city of David, taking water away so the walls don't get undermined. Okay? But here, let's take the idea of a semicircle. Here, remains of bleachers where people would sit. We also have it under here. Here doesn't exist. So, and if we look back, each corner on the right, corner on the left may have been the beginnings of a stage. The holes may have been here, and so that's a very complicated thing. Maybe I'll say a word just at the end when we finish here. So the idea of a theater.
This is the western wall of the Temple Mount. And by that corner, southeastern corner, is this arch. The arch passes through here, and interesting enough, there is a judgment seat here. As well, if we look, we have clear Herodian stones. This is clearly Herod. And just beyond the way, we have the original pavement that would have been here at the time of this arch. Beyond that fenced-in area, it's clearly destroyed when the Romans destroyed this part. But obviously, they did not destroy the wall itself, just the arch and most of what's taken place around here. Okay, here is the western wall, and what we've done is we've seen the pools up here, we've seen Wilson's arch here, we've shown you a little bit of Robinson's arch, and all along this we had Roman legion markings up here, Roman legion things here, Roman legion things outside here. Now what I wanted to point out is this is an actual rendering of the temple that you see on the tours. And if you look at all the diametrically opposed lines, this is certainly not a order of God's temple. Now they're placing the temple over the Dome of the Rock and positioning properly east to west. See that? But if you look, the actual Temple Mount is not aligned east to west, nor is it positioned east to west. You can see the temple has a positioning this way, but this whole fortress is positioned north to south. So that is this proper east to west. Now look at, nothing is lining up with that. These are the outside walls of what they call the Temple Mount. We consider it Fortress Antonia. And this is the present raised level that the present Dome of the Rock sits on. None of these lines, as you look at it, line up at all. So whoever built this was either schizophrenic or it just wasn't the temple. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to Qumran. Okay, we're here at Qumran, and Qumran is a location of the Yahad community. This is where we get the Dead Sea Scrolls. And here we have an entire facility that has matched that of Jerusalem. Now where we are is we're right on the Dead Sea, and here are the mountains, and in this direction is Jerusalem. The community here actually built a temple to match that of what they would have seen at their time. This is approximately 150, potentially even 200 BC. Now the building you see right here is their temple. Then what they did is, instead of the temple had the Holy of Holies and the holy place facing east, what they did is they faced Jerusalem in this direction, which is towards the west, thus giving us the location of the temple at the Second Temple period time. And not only that, we have other things. We have an altar, we have a molten sea, or brazen laver for the water. Okay, we have that all in these coordinates positioning this temple towards Jerusalem. And we're going to look at this site. We have clear walls that would have shown the walls of Jerusalem at the time 200 BC. This is very, very significant because now we actually know where the temple was. It is not on Fort Antonia. It is in a different place, which we will look at in these maps. Here's a map of the community, the Yahad community here in Qumran. And here we have the orientation of Jerusalem. And if we look, we have a lower wall portion that would have gone around the city of David. We have a pool and a stream leading down, just like you have today, the Gihon Spring and the Pool of Shiloh. We also have a cliff face, which is over here, and there's a steep cliff face here, which is just like that of the Kidron Valley. So we have the Kidron Valley, we have the city of David, we have other things here, and we have a building here. They call it a tower, but this is their replica of the temple, showing us a precise map of the temple and walls of Jerusalem at the time of the Second Temple, around 100, 200 BC. Okay, we do have walls and we do have various areas. So let's take a real close look here and find everything that we're looking at that matches the temple. We have a few maps which represent this, but let's take a look here again and we'll show you what we're observing here. All right, now this is in the city of Jerusalem. The old city walls are on the east and they drop off into a steep valley here. So what they've done here is they've positioned this complex with the steep wall which drops off. This is where some of the caves were discovered of the Dead Sea Scrolls, okay? But they have a steep wall there, okay, perfectly matching Jerusalem. Then what we have, as we described, is we have a spring going down. Now, not everything is in perfect proportions here, but we have a spring going down and we have what we call a mikvah, or a pool, and we'll show you that. And then we have the walls heading down. These are just simple stone walls, okay? But these walls are serving the purpose.
For all our visitors, we want to remind you that.
Okay, we're closing up here. We have to do this real quick. So again, we have the walls of the city of David here. We have what this is in Jerusalem. This would be the walls facing south. Okay, this would be our temple. You can see this is high. There's a significant mount here that we'll show you. That's right there. And this would be the location of the temple, right at this place, right where this wall is coming up and meeting this southern wall. Then this wall is heading to, this is the western side of Jerusalem, okay? And then this wall would head up and then turn, and this is where the assembly is taking place. They have the wall going towards the north a little bit, and then again heading towards this eastern wall. Now, mind you, this whole positioning is inverted because what they want to do is have the temple face Jerusalem. So the temple is facing Jerusalem. So the things that we're looking at here, we have a round cistern. This is for the priest washing, and the actual washing basins are called mikvahs, or ritual baths. There's two of those here, okay? Right next to that, there's something that looks like an altar. Okay, so all of this is the things that would have been outside the temple. This is the treasury room. The treasury rooms are in these buildings, and the people that entered this community sold all their possessions and lived in common, and that would be their offering, their sacrifice, okay, sacrifice of their lives. And that would be here entering this procession of worship into the temple. So we're going to show you this here on site and represent this the best we can. We have a few maps that will show you some of these, and certainly it's very clear when you're here on site, but we'll do our best to convey this on video. Okay, here in Qumran we have somewhat of a replica of the old city walls of Jerusalem. In Jerusalem, this would be running south, okay, going down, In Jerusalem, there was a pool called the Pool of Siloam, and over here we have a mikveh, somewhat to represent that, and walls that run up. Then we have this wall running to a tower. As we face in this direction, if this fortification here is the temple, which you could see, as we look out, what you would have is you certainly would have two things. You would have a molten sea. A molten sea is round. Typically in a mikveh, which is a ritual bath, they're square, and we can see all the other cisterns here are square. We've seen those in the Ophel, so it's quite unusual that they've made a round cistern here. Maybe that's what the molten sea is. The molten sea being the large wash basin in the temple. Then we'd have something else that would be the altar. If this is the altar, that would be positioned right here in front of the temple. Now, if we look at the map here, everything is facing towards Jerusalem. Jerusalem would be this way, beyond the walls. It's not perfectly facing the east, because if they believe that Jerusalem was the place of God's throne, maybe they position this in a different arrangement, at which point that this would give us a indication of where the temple was. And this would be the Holy of Holies. Okay. What we're looking at here is not everything being perfectly aligned. Sometimes they're working with the space, working with the landscape to produce this. But clearly we have outer walls that are matching those of the old city of Jerusalem, which would have been before Herod, before Rome, and what we consider the Second Temple period. Now, I just wanted to take a moment and talk about this altar. When we were in Qumran, this is the altar that we saw. Afterwards, we saw another furnace called a smelting furnace that was in a place south in Israel called Timnah Park. These are some old views of Jerusalem. And here's this furnace. Okay. A furnace, a copper smelting furnace. Okay. And let's see, in our photograph here, the smelting process, a furnace, a coke, and they were mining copper in this area south and just a little bit north of the Red Sea. And this is what that furnace looked like. And when we saw this, it reminded us certainly of what we had seen in Qumran. So in Qumran, the altar that we're looking at may very well be a furnace, serving the purpose of the furnace, because they probably were not doing animal sacrifices. They were probably, doing other things, needing a furnace to melt hot metals, and that's what this altar was. Okay, over here we have the sundial. Now, we've shown you before how that's a replica sundial. We've shown you the replica sundial. Over here we have the molten sea, the round cistern there. Okay. This is the entry, the part coming into the temple, which we are standing on what they call a tower. But if this is the temple, beyond these various vessels here, the altar, the wash basin, the round wash basin, then there would have been the treasury rooms there, and the people would have exchanged their money into the entering in of this community, the entering in of this temple. Okay, and that's what we're seeing. Now again, what we're doing is we're facing Jerusalem. Jerusalem would be in the direction we are facing. And these appear to be in stone, things that we have seen in other places like Shiloh. Shiloh had the temple and the tabernacle for some 300 to 400 years. Okay guys, we're here at what is the Treasury Room, and we're looking at something in this section of Qumran. And what it's describing here is the council or treasury rooms. Now if this is a mirror of Jerusalem, okay, what we would do is we'd turn it around again, and what we're looking at is a section which is now the Ophel. So there we have it, the true location of the temple. Now you may ask me, okay Leland, show me specifically where it is. It's by a parking lot, which I'm very close to. This is an interesting place because it's old ruins. I'm not saying these ruins is the site, guys. I'll show you a little pan around, but it's a ball field. It's a playground now. And there's up above us is a parking lot in the Jewish quarter. So we're narrowing down our focus, and we're gonna have more and more videos. What we're gonna do is put together a playlist on the true location of the temple. In the video prior to this, I encourage you to watch The Temple is in the City of David, which is Zion, okay? We've also there gone over maps in many places, and also we'll have a playlist for you because we have more information coming. So thanks for watching, and please watch the other videos in the playlist. God bless you, amen.